Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final session of Cycle 2015. I am here in Minsk, Belarus with a couple of our friends, students, former students, and hopefully we have our audience around the world ready to chime in. Have a couple of missions to accomplish here. What I want to do is discuss anything that didn't get discussed over the week that we want to come back to. If you have more questions or if something inspires you to have an idea you want to share, it's be a good time to do that. And then, of course, the other thing is to talk about Cycle itself. Any feedback anybody has to offer me on how we can improve on this, be most welcome. And also any ideas that anybody might have on changing the name. I'm pretty happy with the name Cycle. But for a number of reasons, it needs to no longer be just the Casey Youth Conference on Liberty and Entrepreneurship. And on top of that, there has been some suggestion that what we're doing is not cyclical, we're building up. We don't want to think of going around in circles. So maybe a better name is possible. Let's come back to the name, though. First, I'd like to come back to the discussion, and if anybody has questions that were not answered, we can entertain them now. I wanted to comment briefly on Dr. Friedman's presentation. It seems so theoretical, medieval Iceland. What relevance is that to most people? Or Somalia, a fragmented country in such trouble today, not a place most people want to emulate. But it's by thinking about things, considering how things might be, it's by conducting thought experiments that Albert Einstein came up with his breakthroughs. And so I want to suggest that what may seem like a purely philosophical point, that's a disservice to philosophy. Philosophy, purely philosophical, doesn't mean abstract and useless. It means fundamental. It actually means important. It means worth thinking about. And what Dr. Friedman was presenting us with was some challenging ideas to think about how to better construct our social systems. And I have to say, I've never heard anybody defend vengeance as a virtue before. I'm going to have to think about that one. So I, at least, was given a lot of food for thought, and I hope others were too. That having been said, Kirill, you're here with us in person. Do you have any highlights from the week, any favorite bits, or any questions you didn't get answered, any thoughts you want to contribute?
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared.
Oh, go do your homework. Rick Rules said you need to ask mentor questions. Dasha, do you have any comments you want to throw in, or come back to you later?
Well, actually not yet, I guess. Just have to think a little bit.
Well, it's okay. There is no obligation here. Let me scroll up a moment.
I might say that I was really interested in parenting topics. It was absolutely unexpected and really interesting to me because I have a lot of friends today that have their kids at really early years, maybe, and I never thought how to be a parent in a libertarian way. So how much is it different from how my parents grow me? I'd like to talk more about this topic.
Well, I'm sure Rosalind would be happy to hear that, and hopefully we could get some more discussion going there. I think that's worth stressing, though, for people who didn't watch that. Anybody out there watching this session now who did not watch Rosalind's talk, it's not just tips on how to get your baby to eat his spinach. Actually, it's the anti-baby spinach method. But it's really about the psychology of parenting. And all of us were somebody's children. All of us have parents. And so that psychology of parenting is important for all of us to think about. How were we parented? What did that teach us? What psychological structures did that place in our mind? Can we deal with that? it was. I agree with Kirill. This was a much bigger, and I don't want to say more important, because I think parenting, as a parent, I think parenting is a very important topic. But it was a much broader discussion than I expected, and applicable not just to people who are about to have children or have children now and are struggling with issues. So I'll second that emotion. While we're on highlights, I'll also, everybody had something really positive to contribute. I really loved Yuri's 10% story, and how somebody can be so successful so young and still humble and friendly and approachable. He's just a good guy. On the other hand, we've got Amir, and it's not that he wasn't humble or not approachable, but he was so enthusiastic and he was so gung-ho. I mean, his thrill of the battle almost of entrepreneurship was really exciting to me. And all the way from the beginning, Ken Schoolin had some really powerful information he presented, very thought-provoking. So did Mary, everybody in between. But one thing that I think, if we can start drawing some lessons from all this, one thing came up again and again, and that was various forms of doing what you love, of finding out what really excites you, what's important to you. It's certainly something I talked about in my talks, but it came out again and again in the various entrepreneurs and academics, philosophers, people that we had. I think almost every talk we had touched on this theme, with the possible exception of this last one from Dr. Friedman. But finding out what's really important to you, and something in your life that you love, empowers you in so many ways. From the ways Kenley described to the ways Amir described, and everything in between. I'm monitoring the discussion here. It's gone very quiet. So let me give our viewers out their promise, assuming we have any viewers. I will not go on forever. If I had this idea to have this conversation and people don't feel like conversing, that's okay. We'll call it quits early. But I do want to open this up, because I can't plan and know in advance what everybody's going to be most interested in. And as Kirill points out, speakers bring to us things that we don't necessarily expect. I got much more than I expected out of Rosalind's parenting talk. And by the way, after that talk, I sent a link to her website to everybody I know that has children, not even just libertarians, just everybody, because the psychology, I think, is worth thinking about no matter what your background is. And I also sent it to several adults that I know, because I thought that her thoughts on how our parents shaped our own psychology were worth considering for them too. Ideally, I'd like to see more of this. I mean, this is just one particular talk, but if any of you found any of these sessions exciting or interesting, it's free. I encourage you to pass them on, pass the wealth, send them to other people who might be interested. Okay, Clark comments that one of the important things he got from our cycle this year was freedom is not something you have to wait for or wait for permission for, or you wait to win. It's something that you do. You are your own authority in your life, and that's a very good comment. I actually used to run a magazine called Doing Freedom, and it was intended to publish practical how-to technology, information, ideas, questions like Kenley answered on how to permanent tourist and so on. Things that people would need to know to actually do the things that we talk about. And the whole idea was very much along those lines. No, you don't wait for the libertarians to win the election in the year 2059. You start doing it in your own life. You can, and you should, and you'll enjoy your life much better if you do. Well, it's funny, in the chat, I don't know how many of you are watching live or may watch this recording later, but it's interesting that we're getting a lot of thumbs ups, as it were, for Rosalind's talk. A lot of people seem inspired by that. We'll have to pass that feedback along to her. I'll give you guys a few minutes to think of if you have any more questions, and while you're doing that, let me come back to the topic of the name. If anybody has any suggestions for renaming Cycle, I'm going to have to pick a new name, whether I want to or not. So I'm very happy to entertain suggestions. One idea that I had, and I'm not stuck on this, but it's an idea I had that seemed to resonate with some people, and that was the idea of life unlimited. Now, just on the face of it, those two words are a lot about the heart of what we get at. It's not just the freedom philosophy because I'm a hardcore libertarian and I read Ayn Rand and I want everybody to have the same political philosophy I do. I believe these ideas are helpful in the real world. I believe we can have a better, more satisfying life today, not when the libertarians win the election of 2059, but these ideas can help us now. And there are a lot of limitations on our life, and we like to blame governments, others, our parents who programmed us, whatever. But in fact, we have the keys to our own chains in our mind. If we will just accept that responsibility and use the key, we can live much, much freer lives now. We can build freer futures for ourselves now, with our actions now. It's really, as the saying goes, if it's to be, it's up to me. It starts with us. So we can unlimit our own lives to a degree that most people can't even imagine possible. And that's what I want to inspire people to realize. That single idea, if nothing else, is what I'd like people to realize. And then we came up with the cute acronym for life of liberty, independence, and entrepreneurship. Maybe it was, no, leadership, independence, because liberty and freedom were a little bit redundant. Leadership, independence, freedom, entrepreneurship. These are some of the core values in an unlimited life. And I'll also mention part of the thought was that there's a large and successful nonprofit organization that's about nature conservancy, saving the environment, called Ducks Unlimited, which I always thought was a peculiar name. The planet would be quite strange if there were no limit to the duck population, but that's okay. It's well known is the point. It's well known as an advocacy group. And in terms of memes getting around, it occurred to me that if we named what we're trying to do Life Unlimited, it would be a positive message. It would be something people would, at least English-speaking people, would instantly recognize as having an advocacy or a nonprofit component or an ideological component, which we want to communicate. So that is my question. Life Unleashed, we have a new suggestion. Life Unchained. All right, the suggestions are piling. Very good. Brainwashing session is open. Anybody else have any ideas? I'm willing to entertain.
I think the better idea will be to continue this brainstorm and the discussions at Liberty.me.
You're speaking for the introverts among us. But okay, I will bow to the suggestion. That's probably good. I know it's hard. If I were in one of the physical cycles of the past, and we had a room full of people there, and I came up and I stuck my camera and microphone in your face and said, okay, give me an idea right now, it would be hard. Fair enough. I have some suggestions already. Well, I'll copy these and I'll paste them into a new thread in the online discussion. Anybody else has any to add? You can add them here or there. And and we also, of course, have the reactionary conservative vote to leave it as cycle. What other traditions? Though I have to say, before it was cycle, it was simply just the Liberty English camp. And going back decades, thanks to Virgis Dalkas and co-conspirators there in Lithuania. So the way it is isn't necessarily the way it has to be. And I promise not to go on forever. So lacking any other questions or major points of discussion, I want to remind everybody that we do have these discussion groups. I encourage you to join the one I'll set up on the new name. I look forward to your input. There are other threads already going. Remember that Rick Rule asked you to pay him for his services. If he's going to mentor us, then we need a mentor back and give him some feedback and talk to his ideas. So we have a mentoring thread on Liberty.me. I ask and encourage you to participate in that. And also, if you have suggestions for topics for next year. That's a really great idea. If there's anything you think is really important that we didn't cover this time, suggest away. If you have speakers that you'd like to hear from that we didn't have this time. We have a big fan of Jay Abraham here. I'm not sure if I can get him, but I can try. And we'll see what else we can do. I'm all for it. And certainly, finally but not least, I want to once again thank everybody who made this possible. And of course, I have to start with Grace, our #1 organizer there. This could not have happened without all the many hours of hard work that Grace put into fashioning this and making it happen. Thank you, Grace, very much. I also want to thank our sponsoring organizations. Liberty.me is the infrastructure here. Without them, we couldn't be able to do this. And we had, last I saw, we had 365 people sign up for this cycle. We could never do this in a single room anywhere in Lithuania that I know, or anywhere else. And we had speakers like Eddie, who was busy in London, or Amir, who was in Vancouver. You know, they don't have time to fly all the way to Lithuania or Shanghai or anywhere else for that matter. It's not just 45 minutes of talk, it's days of travel back and forth that this Liberty.me platform has enabled us to have. So I want to thank Liberty.me, and I want to encourage everybody to make use of your free membership, participate, and look beyond cycle. Look at the other resources Liberty.me has for you. There are a lot of things on there that can be useful in your life. I also want to thank, again, Alex McCobin and Fred Reuter, the Students for Liberty folks. They did a lot to spread the word and help us communicate to more people. As a teacher, that's really important to me. I love teaching. I love sharing ideas. I love seeing your feedback and seeing when people get it, they're excited about the ideas. To me, that's amazing. And Students for Liberty has obviously a lot of people in their audience that we can share these ideas with. They're excited about it. At this point, I'm planning to go to the next Students for Liberty conference in February in Washington, D.C. Anybody that wants to meet with me and ask more questions or get some one-on-one mentoring, that might be a good time and place to get together with me. And hopefully out of that, we'll get some solid plans for a real space cycle or Life Unlimited or whatever we call it going forward. I do want to continue with the online version because that makes it easier to have more speakers and more students. But for people that want to get together and maybe camera shy, talk about these ideas, sing around the campfire and ask questions, I do want to do that again, probably starting up again in Lithuania, but in other places as well. I should say, by the way, though, that we're not the only ones doing this. If you go to the International Society for Individual Liberty website, and they're, of course, our other big sponsor, you can find that there are Liberty camps all over the world. I'm not the only one doing this. I'm not the only one with ideas to share. So you can perhaps even find something closer to home if you go to ISIL.org. Remember, these are the good guys, ISIL. And they have other programs. I think that Property Right Projects in India is fantastic. If you like Ken Schoolin's work and if you like Mary's work, we have a lot more information there on ISIL. I should mention I'm a director actually of ISIL. I don't know why they keep me. I'm so busy. I feel bad that I don't have more time to help them. But I think they're doing terrific work, and they are much more international than most of the other groups out there, and it's a great way to find friends and people. Okay, we have a request for the Washington, D.C. event. That is, again, the International Students for Liberty Conference, ISFLC. I don't have a link right here, but we'll get one up and post it soon. That's not difficult. Actually, if you go to the Cycle pages, if you go to the Cycle Facebook page, there are links connecting all of this stuff together. And I'm pretty sure, no, not pretty sure, I know I posted links to the ISFL conference in Washington, D.C. That's probably my next public appearance while I'll have time to sit down and talk with anybody about any of these ideas. And, okay, we have a couple other suggestions here for collecting suggestions. And we have some more links. And by the way, anybody who comes to these recordings later, I don't know if you're going to be able to access the chat, the real-time chat that goes on during these sessions, but we're going through these and pulling out links from them and things that people shared questions, and we're posting them in the Liberty.me forums so that you can find them there. Alrighty. Well, I think, again, I promise not to go on and on just to fill an hour because I had one. And my feelings are not hurt that we're not getting more questions. That's okay. We are here to help you and not to twist your arms. So my final thanks is to you, the audience. I appreciate you sharing this week with me. It's been exciting. It's been interesting. It's been fun. In many ways, it's been amazing. I have learned a lot. And I know from the feedback that I've gotten that many of you have as well. And I think that's fantastic. So let's do it again. Let's do it bigger and better and more. And look forward to seeing you at one of these in the future. Thank you, everybody, very much. Have a good night, good day, good morning, wherever you are. Have a great one.